Hello everyone and welcome to Lush and Salty Aquariums. My name is Stefan. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. Alright, I'm at the ground level in my fish room looking at what is without question the lowest tech fish tank in my fish room. This is about as low tech an aquarium as one can get, at least as I can get. I mean, there are some things in here that perhaps go beyond the textbook definition of low tech, and we'll get into that, but by and large, this is a El Cheapo Magico, as I am wont to call it, because the aquarium itself is the classic 5-gallon Petco special that is cheap to begin with, and I got during one of their sales some time ago, so it literally was the cost of bus fare to get this glass box. And I don't know, I'm getting a whole lot of bang for that buck, so let's talk about it. These are actually not straight up 5 gallons. I believe they're 5.5 gallons, if I'm not mistaken. You can correct me. It's the 5-gallon fish tank from Petco, so I'm sure many of you have at least one of these for one reason or another, and you can correct me, but I do believe it's slightly more than 5 gallons. That being said, it's the smallest fish tank I have in my fish room if I don't include the jar. And part of the reason for that is, well, I love nano tanks, but basically in this space at the bottom of the rack here, to comfortably fit an aquarium, this was the only one. I mean, I could have probably found something slightly larger and made it work, but I'm not complaining. I have no regrets. So let's get right to the most obvious, important aspect of this fish tank. It's kind of a theme in my fish room, but yet another live bearer, and what is clearly a case of overpopulation. Now, I knew this was going to happen. Those are Endlers live bearers. I'll talk about them a lot, but first I'll say I knew if I'm buying Endlers, if you're buying Endlers, they will, barring, terrible luck or some sort of calamity, they will begin reproducing in great amounts. I mean, guppies, endlers, they are one of the most prolific, if not the most prolific fish we can keep, period, full stop. The thing about these endlers, and I was considering other inhabitants for this aquarium, and I have had other inhabitants in iterations of this aquarium. At one point it was even a plant grow out tank, sort of in the Dutch style. I had some substrate, and I packed in neat and tidy sections, literally about 7 or 8 different stems, and that was doing pretty well. No CO2, but the light was slung low right across the top, and I actually have 2 lights. This one's at a low setting right now. They're all on timer, so I don't remember the exact settings, but let's just say there is 2 lights, 2 LEDs. They're low-end, inexpensive Hygers, at least one of them is, but at that price point, they're all kind of the same, more or less. Night Crew, Hyger, some of those sort of white label brands, but it's doing the job, and it's doing the job really well. Believe it or not, I actually took out a ton of plants this morning, mostly this hornwort up here, which when it's happy can grow, it seems like 2 inches a day, and not just from one side. It tends to just, it feels like it grows from both sides. I know that's probably biologically not what's happening, but it will send out constant side shoots. People can complain. I mean, they can complain. Anybody can complain, but people do criticize this plant for having a tendency to drop its leaves. That has not happened to me, and I don't know why that would happen to anyone, honestly. I mean, I'm not, that didn't sound right. It sounded like I was being a dick. But what I mean is, I feel like if you just put a healthy piece of hornwort into a tank that has halfway decent water and halfway decent light, you should get a good result. I took out a whole ton of it, and there's still quite a bit left. And that helps out with the fry for these fish, but honestly, I wouldn't care if the adults predated on their young. There's entirely too many of them right now anyway, so that would not be a problem. You know, for me, in my experience, I've never had endlers that predated on their young. At least I've never seen it happen, or was witness to a result that would lead me to believe that predatory behavior was happening. I always get a crap ton of baby fish, and they always grow up to make more. And that's just my experience with endlers. Maybe certain types of endlers, certain hybrids, can be more voracious in their appetites, at least in terms of eating their young, but not these. These are a pure strain of black bar endler, but lutistic, if I'm saying that right, not albino, but a gene for the gold. And so I call them black bar gold endlers. They're really quite lovely. Look at the sheen on that. That's one of the OG moms in here, that big one right there. And she's plump as all get out right now, and has been since day one, at least day one in my fish tank. I bought 5 in a bag for $5 from a gentleman at the Greenwater Aquarium Society, the swap they have once a month in the Chicagoland area. Now, his name escapes me, and I beg your pardon. I don't want to stop filming to try and retrieve the gentleman's name, but I will put it in the description. And he is a mainstay on the Chicago Aquarium circuit. I see him all the time at that swap as well as others, and he's a icon when it comes to live bearers. He's part of the Chicago Live Bearers Association, which should come as no surprise. And he's been keeping exotic live bearers, the ones that are endangered if not extinct, as well as some of the classics like the black bar endler. And this variety, the gold version of the black bar endler, he claimed, and I have no reason to doubt him, that they originated from one of the earliest true strain of black bar endlers brought into this country. And so his support or source for these fish, another gentleman in Florida who also has some name recognition, who I also can't remember his name, so there's a contradiction. But he found the lutistic variant and started to breed for that and established a strain that is 100% true in terms of throwing fry that are all 100% all showing the gold quality. I don't see any straight up black bar endlers in here, and I was told that I wouldn't. And the reason, and that's not the reason I bought them per se. I'm not breeding for any specific reason, but in this small aquarium, I wanted a very small fish. At the time when I picked up that bag for an unbelievably low price, I was told by the seller, the man whose name I will put in the description, that not only do they always breed true, but they are very, very small. That is the biggest they will get, and that fish is a year old at least, so I know that that's true. And that fish is just an inch, and that's the biggest. And the males are considerably smaller, and so you're looking at fish that will never get bigger than she is. And I wanted a super small fish because I knew they were gonna make a lot more super small fish, and that I would be sitting here making a video talking about how I have so many endlers in this small aquarium. Here you see a nice group shot, a few of the males. They are so identical to one another. Now, no endler is identical in the true sense of the word. There are, it's like a fingerprint. There is unique differences in the patterning, but from a few inches away, especially with the movement, they all look the same. And I like that, not in all my tanks. I mean, variety is the spice of life, I get that. But I was looking for something I could see from my seat in the fish room, even if it was super small, even if the aquarium was at the bottom of the rack. And so a true breeding gold endler checked all those boxes. And it didn't take long for those 5 fish to now show me what looks like a 50, who knows. And I'll be having to pull, I'll just run the net right through here and grab as many as I can. As I said in a previous video with some of the wonderful swordtails, platies, and mollies, I'm happy to share some of these fish with any of you if you're in the Chicagoland area. Just let me know. I would bring them, and I will bring them to my LFS, but just like the other live bears, that seller, understandably, does not want fish that are not of a sellable size. Otherwise, obviously he'll have to spend the time and the effort and use up valuable tank space to raise up what is a inexpensive fish. So it just simply is not in any seller's best interest to take a bunch of teeny tiny endlers, even if they were of a much more exotic variety. It's just not economically wise, really. So all that is to say, I'm just a hobbyist having fun, and I respond, vicariously in so many positive ways to seeing baby fish, even as something as simple as a guppy or an endler. It makes me feel good, like I'm doing something right, like I'm creating a space that makes these fish happy, and so they reproduce. This aquarium has had many iterations in its low-tech life. It's never had CO2 or any fancy filtration. I just have the sponge, one of the few aquariums where I use a sponge. And I haven't fussed with that sponge in months. And you can tell, look at how it looks clean. Now there is even more neocaridina in here than there are endlers, so munching on the biofilm, no doubt those shrimp have kept it clean. Now I only see a couple frittering around in that area. I did take out about 20. I trapped 20. I used a DIY shrimp trap that I made. It's basically just a little plastic receptacle that I used to, I heated up the end of a screwdriver till it was, you know, super hot, and just burned some big holes into it and submerged that into the aquarium with an algae wafer. And an hour or two later, you know, there's like 20 shrimp in it. And I took the reddest ones I had and put the reddest ones I caught and put those into my new Iwagumi tank, which you can see in an earlier video. I'll be doing another video, an update for that lovely aquarium. But I took the reddest ones and put them in there, and the wild form, you know, where they turn just sort of brown like a tiny Amano shrimp, I put those into my partial blackwater system that has some micro predators, and if they were to eat some of those, I would consider it a very nutritious part of their meal and a wonderful way to maintain that this shrimp population, and at the same time provide some of my more finicky aquarium fishes a live food that is exceptionally nutritious. And I'm always doing stuff like that. I'm sure you are too. That's what we do. We try to make our ecosystems as robust and healthy as possible, and live animals as a food source is a way to do that. So in here I have a really nice colony of anubias that, honestly, I don't know, 8 months ago I just stuck a few plants in between the dragonstone and a piece of driftwood. I didn't use any glue or any tricks. I played with it for an hour until I got the classic triangle aquascape, and there's a huge asterisk next to aquascape because this is pretty haphazard, but yet there's something organic and satisfying about the way it turned out. And the plants on the outside, the different kinds of pothos, there is an acrylic pothos box in here, one of those print on demand. You can get them on Etsy or eBay, make them yourself. There's dozens of ways to accomplish the exact same thing. You can even use the old pots, little plastic pots that you get your aquarium plants in, and a paper clip, plastic. You don't want to use steel. I made that mistake once, it rusts. And you can just affix that to the side of your tank and stick a few pothos cuttings in there. But I had these nice acrylic ones. I was supporting a hobbyist who was selling them on Etsy, so I bought a whole bunch from the individual, and they work just great. They contain the roots to some extent, which is a bonus, as opposed to just putting the pothos into your aquarium. Now, getting a ton of roots is a very, very awesome effect, but with the limited amount of real estate and knowing I'm going to be having to catch out a bunch of fish, I did not want the bunch of roots to inhibit my ability to do that. More or less why I took out a bunch of the hornwort too. But now I've cleared up some swimming space for this prolific group of endlers, and I'm sure they appreciate that too. And since they're not predating on their young, and I don't even care if they did, the only reason I have the endlers, or excuse me, the hornwort, is for the aesthetic, because it looks cool. As you can see from this wider shot, the whole thing feels integrated, organic, and natural. And hornwort, when it's healthy, is an excellent filter in and of itself. Things like hornwort, water sprite, plants like that, floaters, do a much better, quicker job of filtering your water than the slow-growing anubias. The anubias is for me, and you can see, you know, an even better indicator that this aquarium is dialed in, even better indicator than a bunch of endlers breeding, and they'll do that in a bucket, is the fact that these leaves are so healthy, green, and algae free. There is like no spotted algae, no hair algae. Honestly, guppies will eat some of that. They're vegetarian. They're omnivores, but vegetarian. Vegetable matter is a key part of their diet. Endlers, guppies, all the live bears really. Too much protein is worse than not enough. And that plant is doing great. Now I have a bunch of sticks and twigs and pebbles, kind of rubble, a little bit of moss down there, not much. That requires, I think, more quality light and flow, at least down there in the corner, to get the kind of excellent green moss that I love. But it's down there to collect biofilm for all the shrimps. And I'm trying to think what else is in here. There is an inappropriate plecostomus in here, a bristlenose. Now he was always too big for this tank. I mean, he's about 2.5, 3 inches, but he hasn't gotten bigger. You know, I found that to be an interesting phenomenon with fish, a lot of different fish, and this is no justification for keeping big fish in a small tank, but as a fact, they will grow less when there's less real estate for them to grow in. And that's good, because I don't want a fish that's any bigger than that in here. And to show that it's not dominating this aquarium, I can't even find the damn thing. It's a beautiful long fin variety of a common bristlenose. And I put him in here when I put 2 in here when they were like a 1/2 inch long. There he is. You see the tail? How beautiful that creature is. So he's the king, the emperor of this tank, and he probably has something to do with those leaves being meticulous. There are probably some pygmy Coreodora in here. There's an Autosynclus. You know, I keep the same kind of cleanup crew, just different amounts in all my aquariums. Snails, Autosynclus, Neocaridina. There is a mystery snail in here, at least one, and then of course a bunch of pond snails and ram's horn snails. But all in all, for something so small and so simple, it's as complex an ecosystem as anything I have in this aquarium, and arguably doing as good or better than any other ecosystem in my fish room. I wanted to share that with you. If you have any questions or comments, by all means hit me up. If you'd like me to catch you out a bunch of these endlers, if you're in the Chicagoland area, I'm happy to hook you up as well. As always, folks, keep your hands in the tank, albeit carefully. Ciao for now.